Well, hey everybody, it is Wednesday and it's the 17th day of August in the glorious and terrible year of 2020. Welcome everybody to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. I am your mostly sober host, Wes Hagen, always looking forward to 5 o'clock on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays when I can break something open and get my drink on a little bit earlier. So super stoked to have you guys here. We're going to be talking tonight about Central Coast red wines. What are they? How can we sort of figure out what kind of value that they can give us? What sort of lane is sort of Central Coast on the highway of wine? And how does knowing about Central Coast red, and we're going to be talking about specifically Pinot Noir, Syrah, Zinfandel, and Cabernet, and how does that get us to understanding and get us to better wines in our glass, in our table, and understanding these. So I am going to do what I should have done before I came online, and that is turn off the ringer on my phone and make sure that we have nothing in between you and I. So again, if you are new to the show, we do Mondays and Wednesdays. We do some type of sort of a deep dive on a subject and a varietal. We might taste Pinot Blanc, we might taste Legrine, we might taste Cabernet Sauvignon, we might taste wines from a specific region. So I've been mixing it up a little bit. The show, when it first started, was about an hour long, a lot of social interaction. I'm trying to bring a little bit more of the social stuff back a little bit. And oh, Don is back. Good to see you, brother. And what we're going to be doing really is just, and then for a couple weeks, I did like 15-minute tasting, and I stopped, and then I did another 15 minutes on a different subject. I'm trying to integrate everything into about a 30-minute show every night. Sometimes we go 45 minutes. And then on Fridays, we generally have a guest. Just found out in a few weeks, in a number of weeks, probably in about a month, we're going to have, oh, hey, Phil. We're going to have, believe it or not, we're going to have Terry Thies from Terry Thies Selections. And I'm working on Kermit Lynch. So, I want to, fortunately, Karen McNeil was nice enough to come on my show. And now I'm just exploiting the hell out of that fact and saying, hey, if Karen McNeil, won an Emmy and a James Beard, what's keeping you from coming on Day Drinking? So let's get something in the glass, because that's really, really important. And Phil and Dawn, if you want to let me know, and anybody else who's watching up there on Instagram, if you want to tell me what you're drinking, what's going on. Right now in Santa Maria Valley, it is the hottest day of the year. Which today was supposed to be 94 degrees, but it sort of stalled out about 87. So 87 degrees is as hot as we've got this year. That's hot enough without air conditioning. And just the quality of the light today is very unusual because of all the fires in California. So, that kind of surreal look of California sunlight during sort of brush fire, active brush fire season. So yes, there are many parts of California that are burning right now, and Cal Fire is the best at what they do in the world, bar none. So we will show great hope that they can take care of all those fires. One thing that's going to be a little bit difficult with the fires in California right now is we've lost our ability to pull inmate firefighters out of our prisons right now because of COVID. They're not allowing those folks to leave the prison and help what they normally do. A good 10-15% of, I think, Cal Fire is generally folks from prisons, and they do just a heck of a job for 6 cents an hour or whatever they get. All right, so we're jumping in. We're going to start with a beautiful Central Coast Pinot Noir. This is the Ballard Lane Pinot Noir. I believe it is 2018. This is the brand new release, which I'm very excited. I've only had this a few times. So this is a Central Coast blend. So what the heck are we talking about Central Coast? So let's do a little definition. If you watched the show last night, which I think most of you did, we talked a little bit about white wine and the Central Coast. And we talked about how there are basically 40 AVAs, American Viticultural Areas, within the Central Coast AVA. It has to be coastal. If you go too far inland, you won't be really considered Central Coast. So it's basically from south of San Francisco all the way down to basically county line where Santa Barbara meets Ventura. So the very, all of Santa Barbara County, basically all the way up to just south of San Francisco. So that is the Central Coast AVA of California. So to me, I think the overarching lesson that we can learn from Central Coast wines is value. Although very interesting to see some of the most expensive wines in California, reds, whites, rosé, and believe it or not, even dessert wines are actually Central Coast appellated. And those are the wines of Manfred Krankel at Sinaquanon. So Sinaquanon produces a lot of red wines, and Manfred buys a lot of incredibly expensive fruit from Biennacido, from Santa Rita Hills, from all over California. And what he ends up doing is he's not really focused on California as a place to express specific site in his wines. There are some of his wines that are vineyard designated and are AVA designated, specifically like Santa Rita Hills or a very specific AVA. But he does tend to buy incredibly good fruit in some of the best regions in California and does something that is normally considered almost profane in the world of wine, and that is to blend them incredibly well and then put them on the shelf for between $300 and $600 a bottle. $300 and $600 a bottle for Central Coast and sometimes California appellated wine. So the idea that Central Coast wines are all inexpensive is just not true. Look at Bonnie Doone's Cigar Volant. One of the classic blended red wines in California, always does very well, usually 91 to 93 points in the magazines. It's about a $40 wine, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little bit less. Named after the famous Le Cigar Volant, which was the way that they described, I guess, a UFO that landed in France way back when. So there you go. So number one, even though I'm going to go ahead and make the statement tonight that Central Coast red wine blends certainly have great value. There are certainly other wines that run between $50 and $500 that are also Central Coast appellated. So that's going to be really important to understand. And welcome, Wine Chick 7. Hope all is well wherever you are. We always like to hear what's going on. Boulevardier. Jake is getting some serious stuff on. Don's got his Pinot Blanc 2018. And Jim's having a Sonoma Pinot Gris, regrettably. Oh, that's okay. We don't, neither Central Coast nor red. But, if you got to drink Pinot Gris, you got to drink Pinot Gris. You know why Pinot Gris is like making love in a canoe? You've probably heard this joke because it's effing close to water. This is a rated PG show, and every week I try to give myself 3 or 4 four-letter explicatives. So you're really surprised when they come out of my mouth. But since Jim Clendenin was on the show, I think I'm going to have to wait a couple months to actually put another 4-letter explicative out, because certainly there was some extra ones there. Okay, so in the glass, and welcome. Looks like we just had Brenna Ritchie join us. So Brenna, thank you so much for joining us. I've got the 2018 Pinot Noir from Ballard Lane. It's a Central Coast appellated wine. I just happen to know, because I helped blend this wine, that this wine is going to be predominantly Monterey County with a little bit of influence of our better vineyards in Santa Maria Valley. I'm not saying a $12.99 bottle of Pinot Noir might have a little Biennacido or Solomon Hills in it, but we do have quite a bit of that laying around the winery. Definitely got some Santa Maria Valley wine. At the Miller Family Wine Company, we're always bringing in, we have a really nice selection of vineyards throughout the Central Coast in various levels of ripeness and heat. So we have Paso Robles, we have Santa Maria. So that's really important. 2,400 acres between those two places gives us a lot of opportunities for making blends. I will say, I believe the 2018 Ballard Lane Pinot, the 17 had just a tiny little, like a 3 or 4%, maybe a Petite Syrah to add some color to the wine. But I believe because the 18 already had the color and it didn't need it, that this is 100% Pinot Noir. And of course, we're going to be blending it from some regions. So it's going to be Monterey, cool climate, probably a little Santa Maria, cool climate. And then I will not be surprised at all to tell you guys that this wine has some Paso Pinot in it. So that's going to give a little bit more kind of a spicy, tarry kind of aromas. And I did write down a little bit on the Pinot Noir what cool and warm climate does. But, it is day drinking with Wes Hagen. So let's get some of this wine in my mouth. I love the Ballard Lane. Stylistically, we've kept it on track to make a wine that is both juicy, fruity, primary, and savory. And I love savory Pinot Noirs. In fact, I think one reason why Burgundy is so incredibly popular is because of all the different flavors that you can get in that Pinot Noir. So in the same way, when we're blending wines to make a Central Coast blend, anywhere from, again, San Francisco to the end of Santa Barbara County, we're looking for those spice box things. We're trying to project, and we're trying to create and blend balance. You can't do this in one AVA in the same way that you can do it in a Central Coast AVA blend, because generally, if you're making wine from one AVA, maybe there's one end that's a little warmer and one end that's a little cooler, and you can blend them together, and that makes perfect sense. But the nice thing is, if we had 100% Paso Pinot, it would probably be like so savory and light in color that it really wouldn't be delicious to drink by itself. But take 10-15% of it and throw it in some cool climate Pinot Noir from a dark, rich, effusive year. It adds a layer of complexity. It adds a layer of savoriness, of maybe like herb de Provence and a little bit of like tar, and you get those nice floral characters from the cool climate. So you can expect cool climate Pinot Noir to show tart, some nice baking spice character, better color. Remember, color in Pinot Noir comes from cool climate and long hang time. If you grow Pinot Noir out in Fresno, you'll make rosé that won't be worth drinking, even if you macerate it and leave it on the skins, for 20 days. You're just not going to get any color. So color comes from long, cool hang time from cool regions. That's why Santa Rita Hills, being one of the cooler Pinot Noir regions anywhere, produces some of the darkest Pinot Noirs in the world, making some people wonder maybe if we're adding a little bit of Syrah. We're not. But if this wine needed 5% Syrah to make a better wine for Ballard Lane, we would add 5% Syrah. My feeling on this price point is we are doing everything we possibly can to make a wholesome, delicious wine, farmed right, made right, put in a bottle with care and love and a lot of attention. And we want people, when they open the wine, whether I'm pouring it to see if they'll put it on by the glass, or if I'm pouring it at a restaurant to see if they want to put it on the by the bottle list, or if you're just taking it home and drinking it with abandon or with care, or taking notes or not taking notes, that you're getting the best possible wine you can. Yes, it says Pinot Noir on the label, so we're not going to do anything to the wine that takes it out of the realm of the way we think Pinot Noir should taste. But the nicest thing about that Central Coast appellation is it gives us so many different opportunities to see where we want to go with this blend. So that is the Ballard Lane 2018 Pinot Noir. Clearly, after I did my research today for the show, what I found is, depending on who you read, really 4 grapes really came out in Central Coast red and Central Coast red blends. And that would be Pinot Noir, Syrah, Zinfandel, and Cabernet Sauvignon. So I think where we're going to go next is talk a little bit about Syrah while I pour myself. I'm actually going to pour myself a little Zin. We do not produce a Syrah under Ballard Lane or produce a Central Coast Syrah blend. I know that a lot of Syrah producers that produce $30, $40, $50 Syrah might also looking at making, like Joey Tensley makes a Santa Barbara County Syrah down about $30, so it's more value. So as you kind of go and the appellation expands in the size of where you can pull the grapes, the price tends to go down. So I would expect a Central Coast Syrah you could find between maybe $10 and $30. And of course, the cool climate influence is going to give you a little bit more of that green peppercorn or white peppercorn character. You're going to get anise floral character, especially like crushed violets in a real cool climate like Bien Nacido, Solomon Hills, Bien Nacido or Santa Maria Valley. You're going to get sort of a boysenberry, bright, effusive boysenberry kind of character, and maybe even a little bit of anise or star anise. So that wonderful kind of spicy, kind of baking spice or Indian spice aroma. In a warm climate, you could expect a little bit more mint or camphor, blackberry or blackberry jam or sauce, or reduction, fruit cake, like the aroma of those Panettone fruit cakes that you get for Christmas, and 3 years later, finally figure you should throw it out and no one will notice. Love this, sassafras, which is illegal in the United States. Sassafras was the original flavoring compound of root beer. And of course, root beer is now, it's illegal to put sassafras in root beer. So, but if you smell root beer, it's generally, you're smelling what is supposed to be the aroma of sassafras. And that does come out in warm climate Syrah. You might also get definitely black pepper, which is a classic aroma that we associate with Syrah wines and Syrah blended wines. And then, of course, you might end up with a little bit of tobacco in there too in a warmer climate. And of course, Syrah makes a very good blending component or a base to a Rhone blend wine, maybe a GSM, Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre. That would be a lovely way to go with a Central Coast wine, because you could get, the Grenache from a cool climate, so it has nice color. You can get Syrah from a warm climate because it's going to probably be cheaper. Find some Mourvèdre wherever you can find it, that Dave Corey didn't already snap it all up. Dave Corey from Core Wines makes more Mourvèdre than anyone I know. And it's hard to find Mourvèdre in Santa Barbara County because he's got it all contracted down. So well done, well played, Mr. Corey. Oh, goodness gracious, goodness gracious. So we've got that whole Syrah thing, right? So is Syrah probably better as a Central Coast standalone varietal, or or it'd be better in a blend? I love blends. Blending grapes together rarely makes a worse wine. The only wines I don't like to blend, of course, we call those grapes, those grape varieties, noble varietals. And the normal ones you hear in the noble varietal conversation, of course, would be Riesling, Pinot Noir, would be the two that really just stand out and scream. You could say, well, what about Chardonnay? What about Viognier? Well, I just had a great Central Coast Chardonnay Viognier blend from Lindquist family just on Friday when I was hanging out with Bob doing our interview. And that was a absolutely fantastic Central Coast wine, and not inexpensive, but definitely good quality to price ratio. All right, so now I've got some Zinfandel in my glass. We can talk a little bit about Zin on the Central Coast. Zin doesn't really have much of a presence, does it, in Santa Barbara? I understand that there's some Zinfandel planted down, and I saw Jake was talking about the fires and that, Cachuma looking like the ocean. Lake Cachuma and the Paradise Vineyard, which is down off Paradise Road in the central part of Lake Cachuma. There is a beautiful vineyard down there. And from what I understand, it is all Viognier and Zinfandel. So there is a little bit of Zinfandel in Santa Barbara County. No one knows about it. So we don't even really, and if we had Zinfandel in Santa Barbara County, I think somewhere between the Los Olivos district and Happy Canyon would be where I would think, in a nice, Winkler climate zone 4. So the hottest area where grapes can successfully ripen without ending up making raisins or port style wine, which would be region 5. So region 4, I would say, somewhere between Figueroa Mountain and Happy Canyon would be a beautiful place to grow Zinfandel. But why plant Zinfandel when you can get great Zinfandel at a very good price just up in Paso Robles, an hour and a half away? So that's really, I think, the most important thing. Most Zinfandels that you're going to see with a Central Coast AVA might be coming from underappreciated vineyards within Paso or outside of Paso, or in areas that just don't have their own specific AVAs, except the Central Coast AVA filling in all the area, because it is truly an AVA. It's not like a county designation, because you can also just say whatever county you're in, you can just throw that county on the label as if it was an AVA, Santa Barbara County, Stanislaus County, whatever. That's exactly what they want to do. So I'm going to say predominantly when you see a Central Coast Zin, I would say it will be Paso. So here's a weird thing. This wine is 100% French Camp. So why in the world would we not designate this wine as a Paso Robles Highlands District Zinfandel? And the answer is that the brand Ballard Lane, every single wine we make, from Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, Cabernet Sauvignon, all those wines are exactly the same price nationwide. If you're buying wine for Pennsylvania wholesale, or you're buying wine in Hawaii wholesale, we're going to sell it to you for the exact same price. It should be about $8, $8 by the glass nationwide, and that's all different varieties. So the idea is we wanted to make the best wine. We had the Zin fruit, so we made the wine, We probably didn't spend as much on the wine that we would have if we would have put it into barrel like we would have under the J. Wilkes label, or another label that has a little more. This wine lived in a tank. We probably put a little oak in the tank, because that's just what we do. I hope you guys don't mind me telling you the truth on this, because if I throw marketing terms on you, you're not going to learn about wine. And these wines are delicious. And if you can make a wine delicious and keep the production costs down so everyone can really enjoy these wines for a really, really good price point, that's what it's about. So yes, this wine was made in a tank. Yes, it probably had a little bit of oak staves lowered down into the tank to give it a little bit of the oaky flavor. But you know, this wine is so primary. It's so juicy. It just, to me, it just smells like kind of like raspberries and grapes. Super vinous, super grapey, super bright. And Zinfandel, of course, is Kurjanik Castellanski. Kurjanik Castellanski. Okay, I got to make sure I say that right. Or you can also say Primitivo, which is a lot easier. Primitivo means the grape that comes in first, or the early ripening grape, Primitivo. So that's kind of where Zinfandel comes from. It's an Eastern European grape that probably went to Italy, like most grapes, moving out of Transcaucasia and the cradle of wine civilization, and moving into other areas. And eventually, Primitivo became an important grape in Italy. And when it was brought over to California and brought really up to Northern California to feed the intense thirst of gold miners in the 1840s and 1850s. Well, certainly that got people excited. And as Primitivo started to mature in California, it did have a very small amount of genetic mutation. And that genetic mutation has now given us Zinfandel, our own grape. Is it Primitivo? Is it Kurjanik Castellanski? Well, of course it is, but it's also ours. And between Petite Syrah, which is Durif, French grape, and Primitivo, which we call Zinfandel, we have our two heritage California varietals. So every time I drink Zin, I feel like a good Californian, and I am third and a half generation Californian, mostly through Los Angeles. So that's Long Beach and Glendale. So here's to California. Hopefully we'll get the fires out and it'll cool down. It's supposed to be 10 degrees cooler tomorrow, so hopefully with any luck we'll keep our fingers crossed. The wine has a fairly sweet entry and a very fine tannic, slightly chewy, bone dry finish. It's really interesting because the alcohol is not, I wouldn't think the alcohol is really high, but I wouldn't think it's very low either. Yeah, it's 14.4. So I actually get a slight sweetness on the entry, not like I'm drinking a sweet wine, but the fruit is really explosive in the attack in the mouth. And I think that has to do with slightly having a little bit more glycerin and glycerol, the aspects of ethanol, alcohol, that give a sweet perception. So I love this wine because it enters a little slutty and it finishes much more sort of defined and in a definitive and sort of focused way. So I don't really drink sweet wines. I don't like wines that have sugar in them. They play havoc with my blood sugar, but they also just don't appeal to me. And that's why I really, really enjoy a wine that has that sort of bright, fruity, effusive entry, but then has clearly no residual sugar and finishes lovely and dry. I have to say that of all the Ballard Lane wines, and I drink them all, the Sauvignon Blanc and the Zinfandel are my favorites. But you know what always surprises me, like Monday when I opened the Chardonnay, just how good that Ballard Lane Chardonnay is for the money. It really, for a blend of warmer and cooler climates, absolutely fantastic. So what can we discern in a Central Coast blend of Zinfandel? This wine probably has a little bit of Lagrein or a little Petite Syrah in it. I would say probably less than 5%. Remember, in California, we can add up to 25% of other varietals as long as the varietal on the label, Zinfandel, Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, comprises at least 75% of the blend. We can varietally designate it. So we would have to call it a blend if there was less than 75% of any one specific grape. So really, I think that 5%, when you blend in 5%, I think that is a really careful blend to make sure that you're really putting out a wine that is varietally focused. And so stoked here that I think the blend here is just perfect. I get a little extra kind of a nice kind of a blue dark color from maybe a little bit of the petite in this wine, although it just doesn't take me out of that nice sort of a confectionery and beautiful sort of grapey sort of raspberry thing that Zinfandel just can give. And the nice thing about Zinfandel, when it's done properly and with balance, it just doesn't show that raisiny port character like so many Zins do when they're 15.5, 16.5% alcohol. I have no problem with high alcohol anything. I just don't like it when alcohol gets in the way of me tasting something wonderful and delicious, or to understand where the wine's going because it's clouded. It's difficult to understand with that residual sugar. So in cool climate Zin, and there is some Zinfandel, believe it or not. I guess it's probably been grafted to Pinot, but when I was first in the Santa Rita Hills, back before it wasn't even in the Santa Rita Hills, there was a fair amount of Zinfandel down on the Santa Ynez River Basin, down at a vineyard called Hilltop, and it never ripened and it never did much except rot. So my guess is it's probably not there. But you can grow some pretty good cool climate Zin. I would not plant Zinfandel in the Santa Rita Hills. You might be able to get $800 a ton for it, and you can get, what, $5,000 a ton for Pinot Noir. But if you are growing Zin in a relatively cool climate, you could expect a blackberry, black plum, allspice, maybe a little bit of white pepper character. And then in the warmer, the hotter areas where Zinfandel is grown, you would expect raspberry jam, raspberry sort of coulis, sort of a raspberry, sort of a very jammy raspberry character. This actually reminds me quite a bit of that. You can get raisiny, porty characters if the fruit gets overripe. And then you can also expect maybe a little bit of leather, cherry, and sometimes even a little bit of a hickory flavor. That might be driven by the barrel, but hickory is normally a term and a note. When I see it, I would think maybe it's an oak expression specifically that's coming out in Zinfandel. All right, Zinfandel down the hatch. Without a teleprompter, without a spit bucket, I'm here for you, doing everything I can so you guys can understand wine and I can drink and still get paid. Delicious. All right. Not only are we going to open up a Ballard Lane Cabernet, but I just actually am now 10 feet tall. Look how huge working out has gotten me. I mean, isn't that the cutest little bottle? So yes, we make Ballard Lane in 375 milliliter screw cap tops. Great little bottle, you know, to bring to, I was going to say sneak on the beach or on maybe on a train ride or something like that. But it really does fit just about everywhere, including pocket of a jacket. Remember jackets? Yeah, it's summer. We don't need jackets. But 375, and this is the 2016. So 2 vintages ago. So this wine is I think we're just turning over to the 18. So this wine's going to show probably a little more maturity after it's been in these little bottles for about 3 years. So what do we expect from a Central Coast Cabernet Sauvignon? Well, Chardonnay is comprises almost 45,000 of the 98,000 acres of planted varietal wine grapes within the 40 AVAs that make up the Central Coast AVA, and Cabernet is number 2. My guess is probably around 15 to 17,000 acres. Obviously, Cabernet can't be grown too close to the water. You still need some heat summation. You need maybe 3,000 degree days. Pinot Noir needs about 2,000. Cabernet needs 3,000 plus. So you could argue that Cabernet requires 1.5 times as much heat summation in a specific climate to ripen, say, to 24 to 25 bricks, where we want to be picking it up. This Cabernet, and I always like to know the alcohol because we are incredibly accurate in our labeling at the Miller Family Wine Company. By the way, Day Drinking with Wes Hagen is brought to you by the Miller Family Wine Company. Go over to millerfamilywines.com. Check us out. We've got great deals. You can always try DD50 as a promo code. You can also try penny shipping, all one word, and that should get you penny shipping on at least a 6-pack up to 12 bottles, and that saves you about $20. So that's a really good way to go too. That being what it is, commercial over. Well, sort of. Let's taste this beautiful Ballard Lane wine. It is definitely a little more leathery and savory than the Zin. The Zin was all just raspberry and maybe a little plum, some grapiness, a little bit of cotton candy, and very, very primary. This wine It's definitely got a little more going on. Of course, half bottles or 375s, these are going to age significantly faster than a full bottle. Maybe not twice as fast, but big bottles mature slower, smaller bottles mature faster. So I would expect this wine, I would say a Magnum can go 1.5 times as long as a 750, and I would say that a 375 would probably age about 50% faster. So if we said it aged 50% faster, 3.5 years, it's going to be drinking more like 4.5 to 5 years, but it's got a screw cap. So it's all about how much dissolved oxygen was in the wine when we put the cap on. My guess, knowing us at the Miller Family Wine School, we're going to probably assume that this wine probably went into bottle with between half a part and 1 part per million dissolved oxygen, which is very low amounts of dissolved oxygen that allow the wine really to sort of age slowly and gracefully and not be too showy and fall apart too quickly, as some wines are massively oxygenated. So they show incredibly well, but they fall apart very, very young. All right, Cabernet Sauvignon, 2016. Warm vintage. It's really in a very pretty place. It's losing a little of its clunkiness. It's getting a little, the very beginning of the tannins in the back of the palate are very soft and velveteen, and then they grab. It's interesting because I'm feeling the tannins begin to form chains, but then the chains aren't long enough to stop them from sort of spiking the astringency receptors on the papillae of my tongue, the bitterness. It's not bitter at all, but those are the astringency and bitterness are picked up basically by the same part of our tongue and translated into the part of our brain. And did you know the part of our brain that controls smell or olfactory lobes are directly adjacent to both the amygdala, which manages emotion, as well as the part of our brain that also takes care of memory. So if you ever wonder, like if you go back to where you went to 3rd grade and you walk outside in the playground, do this when there's no kids or they'll look at you funny, and you smell like, say, I think of the California pepper trees in my elementary school in Long Beach, California, Los Cerritos Elementary School. That smell of warm blacktop and the smell of the California red pepper trees. So that, when I smell a pepper tree, I think of that. So the coolest thing about memory, emotions, and smell is the part of the brain that controls all three is very localized. So there is a little give and take there, and that's one reason why I think aroma can be so powerful in helping us sort of evoke memories that come back to us like that. Cabernet in a cool climate will certainly have a red fruit, red currant, cherry kind of aromas to it for sure. Not a lot of cool climate Cabernet. I would say cool climate Cabernet to me is like Sonoma County, like Pope Valley, Knights Valley, those areas. They're cool, but they also do incredibly well for Zinfandel. So cool, but not hot. Cooler than Napa, but not still as cool as Santa Maria Valley or anything like that. Warm climate rules Cabernet, and warm climate is necessary to get Cabernet right. So the normal flavors that we associate with Cabernet are generally best described as the aromas and flavors that are given by the warm climate. We're talking about candied and fresh black currant, tobacco, blackberry, chocolate. So we go from sort of red fruits where it's a little cooler down to black and blue and purple fruits really when it gets nice and warm. And then as the wine ages, you're going to get a little less of the primary fruit and a little more of the complexity, less blackberry, more leather, less currant, maybe a little bit more dried fruits, maybe like a desiccated blackberry or something like a smoke, a little bit of smoky character or gunpowder or flint. Some of these things, mineral character, is generally not that common in young cab, but when cabs age, especially if they're from Bordeaux, and we're not talking about Bordeaux, we're talking about Central Coast. But I think the charm of Central Coast appellated Cabernet is value, deliciousness, consistency, that's something we don't talk a lot about, and that's how we'll close tonight, is talk a little bit about consistency. Consistency in California, I mean, there are places in Australia, places in South America that could probably rival California with consistency, but I'm going to say as far as like vintage in and vintage out, it is hard to imagine a level of consistency in a wine region that has the same, that can be described in California. California's consistency is incredible. We have almost zero rain, almost zero hail during the growing season. In the Central Coast, specifically Santa Barbara County, I've never seen more than 1/3 of an inch of rainfall in any given rain event, say between April and September, maybe even April and October. It just doesn't rain. I mean, I've been here 25 years. I haven't seen one rainstorm between April and October in 25 years that have produced more than 1/3 of an inch of rain in a 24-hour period. It's a miracle. It's whenever I think, oh, harvest, ouch, here we go, we got to make some wine, let's do it. What ends up happening is if I feel nervous, if I feel anxious, if I feel like I'm overworked, if I feel like I'm done, I need sleep. On the way home, right before I go to sleep, I'll look up Burgundy and look at the weather. I'll bring out Germany or Austria or Switzerland, look at the weather during harvest. Rain, wind, craziness. So nice thing about California is you can always really expect wines of character and flavor and consistency. So I think we learned something about Central Coast Reds tonight. I hope you did. I enjoyed all of these delicious Ballard Lane wines. These are all available on the Miller Family Wine Company's website, millerfamilywines.com. Go and check them out. If you need some wines at home, let us know. We can always put a couple of ice packs in there and get them out. It will be cooling down in California. Hopefully that'll help our brave firefighters and first responders take care of us. Hard to fight a fire when it's 100 degrees out. It's a lot of equipment. It's a lot of work. So lots of thank yous and positive thoughts to all of our Cal Fire folks out there taking care of business. Positive thoughts to all of you out there watching the show and having a glass of wine. How lucky are we that we have the opportunity to sip something delicious while folks are out there just sweating their butts off, making sure that our houses are safe and that everything is fine. So let's keep Napa in our thoughts. Let's keep everybody in our thoughts. And of course, as I always say, take good care of yourself. Trust science. Find someone in your family, in your neighborhood, someone maybe you don't know very well. Reach out and see what you can do to make their life a little bit better. If you've got some time and some energy, maybe even a little bit of money, try to find someone who might need it. We all need to help each other get through this. So 2021 becomes a year that when we look back at 2020, we think, whew, that was brutal, but man, 2021 is looking really, really good. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Really do appreciate it. And I'll be back on Friday. I don't know what we're going to do Friday. I was originally having Tom work. He moved to 1 week further. So I don't have a guest on Friday, but we're going to do something. May even do, my wife and I are going to be celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary in 2 weeks. Maybe we'll do a 20th anniversary party or something, because certainly we're not going to have people over. An anniversary is not exactly a party where you want everybody over at your house anyways, even if you don't have kids. All well and good. I hope you guys have a fantastic. I'll let you guys know. Watch this space on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll let you know what we're doing on Friday. Expect me to log on though on Friday and have something to talk about and something to have fun. If maybe I'll try to scrounge up a really fantastic guest, but I'll make sure that the guest is great. So really looking forward to it. Have a fantastic night. And if you can't be with the wine you love the one you're with. Thanks, everybody. Keep on day drinking, because